you've got the faith of the entire region behind you at that point. For Edward Gaming, it's an awesome thing to have your fate in your hands, and what a way to secure your spot in the quarterfinals by taking down KT Rolls.
And for the KT fans, the Busan faithful have been resonant about how much they believe in the super team this time out. They are the best hope of Korea lifting the Summoners Cup at the end of Worlds 2018. But zooming into the draft here, we're actually seeing the red side for KT Rolls to Olaf ban is an interesting one, but that's because Haro is coming into the lineup. Much more of a Haro champion than a Clear Love champion.
And again, a lot of this focus on support bans. Alistar is already out. Tom Kench has been taken away. Rakan maybe rising a little bit in value. So it's definitely the support and jungle focus already early on.
Alistar and Tom Kench, the two most banned supports throughout the group stage here at Worlds 2018. 25 bans on the Alistar, 23 on the Tom Kench, and those numbers will only continue to rise with Aatrox, Nocturne, Ornn, and Olaf all banned out too.
So my eyes were actually peeled on this final ban from KT because Urgot is left open. The Aatrox was banned on blue side. Smeb can get very tricky with counter picks. I'm sure he'd love to put out a Fiora versus Urgot performance. There's a lot of risk to that. EDG, look at all the available options, and I see you actually dilate your eyes pretty wide there, Kobe, because of everything open. They actually first pick Kai'Sa against one of the quicker teams, especially in this group.
Exactly. It was a little bit shocking at first, but then you remember it's iBoy. He is by far most played champion, Kai'Sa. He has dominated. This is not only one of the strongest picks in the meta right now and an amazing hyperscaler, but for iBoy, definitely a comfort pick. Here's the answer already, though. You can see KT Rolls are just waiting to lock that in.
And you do wonder if Mata is feeling it. The Gragas earlier today, amazing. The Thresh here would be quite tasty on the side of KT. Xayah Rakan has been looked over for some of the more hodgepodge duos. When it comes to these Xayah lanes, we're going to hold back, and, well, we have Old Man Scorelock in the Kindred for the first time this tournament.
Looks like they'll hover over it for a very extended amount of time, and yes, they locked that one in. The two most prominent AD carries throughout Worlds will make their presences known here yet again, with a third marksman showing up already.
And when this was locked in for their first time here at Worlds in group stage, I immediately thought to score, snowballing jungle champion, perfect combination. KT Rolster already usually like to get winning lanes for themselves to play with. Smeb and Yukao are amazingly strong solo lanes, and then they can allow Score to rack up marks on Kindred like almost no other professional jungler here.
If you want to talk about strong lanes, let's talk about Urgot. Let's talk about Akali, because both of those solo lane champions going to be locked in now by EDG before the second wave of the bans has a chance to set its sights on them. We've seen a lot of success, especially from Urgot. Akali the past couple of days has also had some pretty killer performances.
And those flexible duo laners, those flexible solo laners on blue side, I should say, but flex picks will make things very interesting for EDG going forward. Blue side meta, as a lot of the casts have been discussing, very much about flex picks where you can get them. We forecast the Thresh, we're seeing it here. My only question is, after the Gragas performance, is it time for a jacket change and the Samsung white skin to come out for Mata?
Yeah, every time he picks the champion he got MVP of Worlds with, we allude to it and the possibility, but we're definitely going to have to wait maybe for a bigger game, I think. Let's say here, though, Alessandra coming through with the ban. I do like this swap over because, you know, with the Akali and Urgot, technically, these are flex picks for EDG. You don't assume completely that Scout is taking either one, and they are actually very different lanes. Unlike sometimes you get two flex picks that are very similar, Urgot and Akali play very differently.
Very interested to see where Smeb goes, because you'd imagine you blind pick Smeb's champion, and actually they go for a flex themselves in the Swain. Now for KT, this is usually a Yukao champion. I actually dubbed him Daddy Yukao in spite of being a 17-year-old because he put in such a dominant performance on the Swain. But it can wave clear a wave pretty happily in the top lane. Cuve and other Korean top laners have liked it. EDG, they're going to have flexible laners. How do they round out their draft? They need a jungler at some point.
They need a jungler, they need a support. It looks like support is going to be the focus first and foremost, as Rakan is going to be locked in. The lovers are broken up once more. He'll be going up against that Xayah, the KT locked in for themselves earlier. And now, what do you pick here for Haro to round out this draft?
Camille jungle is usually a big favorite into the Kindred, but Xin Zhao has a pretty similar ability to close the distance reliably and brawl with Kindred. You don't want to go for a tank. Usually in this matchup, the Xin Zhao being hovered, I think it's probably coming for Haro.
Yeah, I like to see lots of burst damage when you're facing a Kindred, because even though people instantly think of, oh, you know, Kindred ultimate is just going to go down and negate those kills, we've seen very effective use of champions like LeBlanc or the Akali that's already been locked in for EDG, trying to force that out from Kindred so that she doesn't really get to participate too much in the fights.
And I also personally like the Urgot into Kindred interaction where you can pull her out of her own Lamb's Respite and manage to kill her with the Executed.
One of the most satisfying interactions in the game for the Urgot player, of course.
I mean, so let me dunk with it earlier this tournament, so a real chance of that one.
Yeah, and we definitely saw Blabber on the receiving end. He showed that, yes, you can get your QSS and try and use that to then get your Kindred ultimate off and stop it, but that is going to be another long way of investment. Last one here locked in, though, of course, is the Scion big tanky front line. That is going to go to Smeb in the top lane and really round out the team fighting for KT Rolster. Now they've got a point man to work with.
It ended up being a pretty respectful choice, all things considered. They couldn't know 100%. You do forecast it being a mid lane Akali, but you don't know 100%. Don't want to opt into a skill matchup and then have it flipped on you. Strong lane, strong CC in both top, mid, and the bot lane for Kindred to potentially pop off. If Kindred gets a trade kill on Xin Zhao early and then starts getting to the lanes, the ganks could be awesome.
Strong lanes, strong CC, and we're also talking about a team that has had an incredibly strong performance so far. Looking at the stats, looking at the numbers that KT puts up compared to everyone else in this group, they just seem so far ahead. Edward Gaming has their work cut out for them to find a win here.
I am so excited for this game already. The Kindred versus Xin Zhao matchup is especially interesting early on because Xin does have the advantage on the gap closer here versus Kindred. It means that Kindred can't go blindly walking through Fog of War, especially in the early game when there is a lot of that around, because you have to respect the possible all-in of the Xin.
And as we're loading in, watch the level 1 wards because no one wants to give up scuttles when that RNG could come up so big for Kindred.
Level 1 could be incredibly important here as they do try and get vision for those junglers.
And you can hear the crowd roar to life as the teams get themselves out of the spawning platform and onto the Rift. KT looking to keep up that perfect record with those immaculate performances. EDG looking to secure themselves a ticket to the quarterfinals with a win here against the Korean favorites. We'll see how it plays out right now. Everyone just mirroring one another across that line of scrimmage.
As they line up one-on-one, we can also go over a couple of the laning matchups here. Specifically, I do like Yukao's pick of the Swain into this Akali. You can use the Swain passive, try and pull her out of the cloud a little bit, so you can try and get that extra little edge. Right now, though, we might have some damage traded early on, Captain Flowers. Pretty even, though.
Yeah, not a whole lot there to really write home about. Ray gets him with one of the shotgun knees, but early on, the shotguns aren't loaded with anything that's too heavy caliber, so everybody's just going to walk away from it.
You open with the blanks, but later the true shells are loaded in. And speaking of a potential shotgun, I want to zoom in on Score because he's on the Kindred this time. He made his career. Some, of course, our new viewers might not know. As an AD carry, the immortal Score, he was dubbed as one of those AD carries that always stayed away. Speaking of AD carries, the trading does start in bot lane. This is actually very similar to that first matchup where the level 2 gank from Score really tilted the lane.
Ooh, the Kaisa passive. iBoy gets off enough autos on Mata to take down over 50% of his HP there at the level 1 trade.
And it's right as minions are arriving. There's no time to go back to base, heal that off in the fountain. Instead, that's going to be a nice early advantage here for EDG.
And we'll see what that means about the jungle pathing because it was a Xin Zhao from Score bot lane that spotted this. Speaking of being spotted, though, the ward is down. Sweeper first from Haro. Still a lot of pressure being exerted by EDG.
I've seen maybe 40% of the games with this exact path. He does go back and finishes the word. Both of my casting comrades here decided to have a bit of a reaction there, but Score does get his blue during that time of finishing up the ward.
He wanted to give the ward kill to iBoy, showing how much EDG indexed around getting their AD carry ahead. But then, of course, iBoy was ordering a minion. Almost didn't get the ward. Got it eventually. In the meantime, though, maybe with that hesitancy, Score just finishes off the blue and rushes to this scuttle that is marked on the top side.
Let's review what happened after that early trade, too. Take a look at the CS here. They've been getting pushed in. iBoy and Mako really taking control of this bottom lane with that level 1 play. It's already resulted in significant gold value, plus Scuttle Crab control, of course, from Haru, even though he revealed himself, getting that presence for the bottom side to work with.
And this is more important than just X beats Y. This is actually the scaling bot lane of Kai'Sa Rakan beating Xayah and Thresh you would usually give on paper the 2v2 advantage to. So not a trivial lead. Important that you get every CS you can as iBoy, as this lane could flip at any moment.
It really is. Considering, you know, iBoy is the guy that came in after Deft and has to fill his shoes here. He's got his Kai'Sa that he has over 20 games on in the regular season in LPL. He's feeling confident. They won the first trade, and that is a good area for EDG to work.
And we can actually extend the metaphor here because star-crossed lovers are a pretty common thing to talk about. The star-crossed lovers in this game are the old EDG duo lane of Deft and Mako. So a lot of different levels bot lane works on as this time we flip to top side and Score is looming, but looking unlikely to find a game.
Yeah, he'll hang out here in this top side brush, that backmost one, just making sure he doesn't step a little bit too far forward and get seen. But Smeb, with control over this lane, just shoves everything up. Ray will answer that underneath the turret. No gank opportunities here.
Yeah, very respectful path from Score early on. He doesn't want to take the chance of walking through a brush that does have the Xin lying in wait. He's gotten the top Scuttle Crab for himself and now can return to clear up the last of his mini camps.
And in the end, the Kindred pick here is kind of the hodgepodge of his career, his 6 years as a player, his ranged AD carry days, the immortal Score, into his smart jungle pathing, which has defined his jungling portion of his career. So we'll see when he finally is willing to walk up, because the early levels is where Xinja has the biggest advantage over Kindred.
Haro's coming into this bottom lane now, thinking about going after a lane gank, but EDG have to clear out the wards in those side brushes first. Both junglers in this bottom lane now. KT saying, all right, we have a feeling something's going on here. We're going to bring Score down as well.
Yeah, the hypothesis in Champ Select was definitely to center around the bottom lane. Thresh Lantern can be used very aggressively as well, even with a champion like Kindred. Not going to be the case here, though, as both junglers hovering around.
Both teams seem to have a pretty good idea that 3v3 action can happen here. Teleports up on the top laners as well.
Looks like Mako's decided to go in a little bit here. Just finds the grand entrance to throw them up into the air. Won't go for anything more right now. Deft very low on mana if a fight does break out. Score still waiting for his moment, not jumping the gun.
Neither team with vision of the enemy jungler for a very long period, so they should be playing cautiously. Already we have a run from Yukao as well. Mid laners might be getting involved.
This is such a tense situation. Haro coming around from behind, looking to start things off. Score now gonna make his move, finding the damage down to iBoy. First blood over to KT Rolster, looking to find some more if they can. Mako's gonna be taken very low. Can they finish him off? Decimating smash will find it.
And Score's patience pays off. He waits in that brush even after the first little bout of action, but iBoy walks right into Mata's death sentence and gets annihilated.
And it's the duo of the patience of Score and the assertiveness of Smeb's teleport. Pulls the trigger instantly. This was all going to be a jump scare, one way or the other. A horror film is enacted, but Mata hitting the first hook allows the burst damage to make it an uneven trade.
iBoy got 2 autos and a Q off on Kai'Sa, and that is it. Smeb teleports down, Score was already lying in wait, and KT Rolster with the early lead.
And there's that clean execution I was talking about. KT Rolster has looked like a team on a mission so far at Worlds. These guys are just playing out of their minds so far, and honestly, going up against EDG, a team that wants to get a lead early, this is really good from them, as it looks like that Scuttle Crab will have to be surrendered by Score.
Yeah, you can tell as soon as Score gets eyes on a level 6 Akali as a level 4 Kindred, you are out of there. No way you're sticking around for a Scuttle Crab. So definitely a good decision to leave there, because Scout definitely would have gotten that.
And despite how fast you clear as a Kindred, given all the constraints of the Xinjiao and also the counter gank and camp in the bot lane, is a couple of camps behind, but certainly no big deal, and especially the 2 assists will make up a lot of the gold difference.
Getting those 2 assists for Score, making sure that he's involved in these kills, and honestly, it's been one of the weaknesses of Edward Gaming so far in the group stage. They've had very low jungle proximity from their junglers, 14th out of the 16 teams, while their opponents often camp their lanes. They're the victim of the 4th highest enemy jungle proximity, meaning the opponent's junglers are often getting involved in these lanes, as we might see EDG get themselves involved in a fight here in the bottom side of the KT jungle. Haro's gonna steal away the blue buff. Feathers coming out. Hook's not going to find its way onto iBoy. EDG now looking to make their exit. Should get away pretty cleanly here. And it looks like we won't see any blood.
Yeah, clean picture here of EDG lanes helping Haro with the invade here. Jungle proximity goes both ways. It's not just junglers going to the lanes to help out, but also the lanes collapsing to help out the junglers. They do steal away the blue buff here from Score.
And it's a really good sign for EDG fans. It was so coordinated. They pinged out Score on his Raptors, so they were 100% aware there's going to be an outnumbered trade. This is just a preview of the sort of damage, so we're seeing one rotation, about a third of the health bar for Smith.
Smeb's gonna be on the losing end of that one, of course, up against the Urgot as a tank. You're gonna be doing a lot of hanging out underneath the turret, farming up, just keeping yourself relevant for the mid-game fights once those break out. KT deciding it's a good time to four-man the Mountain Drake. We'll see if EDG makes any sort of a move to contest this, but right now they're pretty far away. Void Seeker fired off, not gonna find any sort of a mark, so they won't see how low that objective is. Hook comes out, they're gonna look to go in, make the fight happen. Right now, a lot of damage gonna be dropped down onto Mako, goes over the wall, keeping himself alive. Haro now trying to escape, wind becomes lightning, but Yukao will become the end of Haro. Going in to find the damage, but now gonna get himself away. Ray's looking to secure the kill onto him. Lamb's fight goes down, Mako's gonna drop down as well. Yukao has fallen into the back line. It's Score keeping himself all right. In comes the Scion, but there's the fear beyond death. Death goes into the grinder, and that's EDG picking themselves up too. But they've had some casualties as well.
Let's go into why they actually started that up. KT Roaster, even though they have a teleport disadvantage from the top lane, they had an advantage as far as the mid lane where Yukao comes down, but Scout was in base coming from a purchase. So in the beginning, they have a 4-member deficit. However, afterwards, they're able to pull it back.
But you can put on the rose-tinted glasses if you're EDG, because we knew that Score was really caught between a 1400 health Drake and actually engaging on the fight. Mako doesn't die instantly, so Thresh wastes all of his time trying to finish off the kill. And when Ray gets such an assertive teleport, it does look like EDG are going to actually find a foothold in the fight.
Exactly. Right here is where Scout does make it to the fight, coming from base. That's where EDG turn it around. Ray is going to be able to finish off that kill with the Fear Beyond Death, and that's how they got number 2. This is important for them to try and turn around this early game.
EDG would love to turn around the early game. Back in the play-in stage, we talked so much about how the other play-in teams having to go up against them would have to deal with this team that so often found themselves with early advantages. But throughout the main group stage here at Worlds 2018, it's EDG that have been struggling to find those early leads. Throughout all of the first round robin, they weren't able to find any big early game advantages. And even today, in the game they had against Mad Team, it was still even or relatively even for the first 15 minutes. All
right, well, the seesaw is about to tip back the other way now because Smeb's teleport is coming up quicker than Ray's will, who has swapped over with the Summoner Spellbook to the Ghost, and they have a teleport on their mid laner as well. So a lot more mobility possible from KT. EDG are the ones starting up grouped as 5 on this Rift Herald, but KT can answer.
I like EDG being proactive like this, saying, all right, we're going to fight again, and we're going to fight over Shelly, who's taken down to about 1,500 HP, will be taken very low. Haro on the front line looking to make that secured as they're going in. Mako looking to find the initiation. Haro's already going to be taken down. Ray now looking to find something else. Score's already been shot to pieces, but there comes a 3-man fear! Mata drops next. It's a double kill over to iBoy, and EDG make it 3!
EDG group up as 5 members onto the objective and force KT to them, thus nullifying the possible teleport advantage, and they absolutely beast that team fight. Score had no ultimate on the Kindred left over from the old cooldown.
And those are sort of mid-game calls that EDG usually see in a victory. That is a sort of assertive play that minimizes the things that are working against them and maximizes the positioning advantage. KT come in as a 5, but they're always considering where is Akali.
All right, Acer Predator replay to walk us through it one more time.
All right, even though the death sentence lands onto Haro and they immediately kill him, EDG also ran over Score, and Ray gets in the middle of 3 with the Fear Beyond Death, finds the execute plus the fear, absolutely destroying this team fight on the front line.
Deft had to use his Feather Storm so early that he was sitting duck to that ultimate there, the Fear Beyond Death. It was able to ravage the fight, and now suddenly we are super competitive between KT and EDG.
Again, a lot of credit to EDG for choosing that timing window to force the fight. there was, yes, a teleport on UCal, but that's not going to help if they're grouped up as 5. And Score's ultimate still not available from the last fight where he used it on the Kindred. Now, Haru is going to be able to trade this Mountain Drake for the top side tower here. KT trying to get that first turret bonus gold.
Want to grab themselves the extra gold from that objective, make sure they're not losing any momentum here in this game after that fight didn't go their way. We will see the dragon taken by the side of EDG, specifically iBoy getting the killing blow on that as EDG summons up Shelly here in the mid lane, looking to equalize those turrets, and they will do so.
And you don't have to stop. The thing about Rift Herald this early in the game, you have to answer to Rift Herald push because it absolutely destroys. Turrets are going in!
But now they're finding so much damage down to Scout, he's almost going to be killed instantly into the smoke, but it does not matter! Dash hand pulls him out, as now they're going to find even more. KT strike back!
This is the sort of slugfest you're looking at when you get KT versus EDG. So important, the Swain passive there to actually stop the Akali from fully disengaging. A second kill comes up. The minion wave isn't massive, but with 280 carries, they want this turret.
Just what we were looking for from UCal, and now it is KT Rolster with the advantage, firing back and taking down mid.
Colby, you said that when you have Shelly, you don't have to stop. Well, when you cash out to opponents, you don't got to pump the brakes either. KT looking to take down that tier 1 mid lane turret, and without a full squad to stop him, EDG has to surrender it here.
Oh boy, let's take our breaths when we can, because this seems like a breathless first 15 minutes. 14 minutes into the game, pretty even between the two. The last counter punch from KT does put them in a very good scenario, but that was very much adaptation on the fly from KT.
All right, let's review once again in the replay here. EDG know that they have the push advantage as Xayah on your screen, still walking down from topside. But look at that knockup, and UCal gets the pull in, immediately eliminating the mid laner from EDG.
It was a tale of 2 Qs from Smeb. The first one was for wave clear, but Kali thought she was outside the area, and then the combo with the Swain passive actually makes her fall down with no fight involvement.
Deceptively large hitbox on that
We
axe.
like to call it generous.
Very generous to Sion indeed, and not so generous to Scout.
And right now, KT feeling good from that fight. They're back to a 1,000 gold lead. Things had swung into EDG's favor momentarily off that big fight where they found 4 kills in the Rift Herald pit, but now KT seems to be back in control. We'll see how that ebb and flow continues. Past the 15-minute point now, we're officially into the mid-game, gentlemen, as everyone is going to be rotating around. Keep an eye on lane assignments. Keep an eye on who's being more proactive, because both teams have shown a desire to be the ones pulling the trigger so far.
And both teams have different map states. All KT's vision is bot side. All EDG's vision is actually a byproduct of the Rift Herald earlier. It's top side. So EDG's making measured risks trying to contest this turret going down.
Yeah, looks like we might be in for another fight. There's a teleport ready.
Oh, it's right to iBoy.
Nice hook going in, but here's the counterattack from EDG, looking to make something happen at least. Lamb's Respite goes down. Nobody's going to be killed just yet. Mako very low. Scout wanting to rotate down to the fight. He's going to be blocked off by Smeb. KT back away, but the pressure is going to continue for now.
Yeah, that's a 5v4 situation. Ray still on the top side. This might be a turret trade as KT Rolster sticking around on bottom, and they sent Smed up to answer the mid lane push here from Scout.
Gotta play it around your vision. That's what KT's doing. No reason sending anyone top lane. That turret will die for certain. KT take down the outer ring first, but Ray getting some solo gold, piling up the CS, staying very competitive with the Scion.
Whether it was trading off the top lane tier 1 for the Mountain Drake earlier, or now trading off the bottom lane tier 1 for that top lane tier 1, I like the fact that EDG is recognizing when an objective is lost and going for a trade instead of a pointless fight.
That's how you know you're watching a great game, is there's no free lunches for either team. If someone's getting something, there's a reaction or a movement on the other side to pick up an objective, and that of course keeps the game competitive, which is exactly what we want.
We also saw the very exciting game between Burst Assassins and Kindred. All Kindred players looking to get your ultimate down early enough so that you respect the burst damage, but also the goal of the Assassin player, in this case Scout on the Akali, is to threaten enough burst while having your Shroud to be able to disengage and then wait out that big cooldown. So it is a matter of seconds in this last one. Score ulted early in order to ensure that Mata definitely did not go down, but he won't have the ult up for the next fight, and Scout has plenty of burst damage ready.
We'll see where that next fight happens. With 5 turrets having been taken now between the two teams, it's only one outer turret left standing. It is that bot lane outer for KT that has not yet fallen down. Still only 1,000 gold separating the two squads here. Next Elemental Drake will be mountain number 2. That's coming up in about 70 seconds or so here. As you can see, items coming online across the board. Storm Razors for AD carries. The Gunblade's been up on the Akali here for a while. Black Cleaver onto Urgot. Sunfire Cape on the Scion. We're starting for everyone's builds to take shape.
And speaking of builds, I want to zoom in on Score once again, because what we learned from watching a lot of Blabber versus Urgot is, do you consider the QSS, or do you just play back as the Kindred? Because there's a very big disadvantage not being able to be in attack range most of the time. If you don't go QSS, you kind of have to be a backliner and mostly play around the Xayah, maybe around the Thresh as well. If you go QSS, you can be more brazen about front footing or front lining as the Kindred. So that's kind of an interesting duality to consider.
Plus, considering Score only has 2 marks in this game, still has a ways to go before he can get the extra range on Kindred to make that interaction much easier to play out. In the team fights, ideally in this stance, he wants another member of his team to be on the receiving end of the Urgot ultimate, so then he can ult his team member instead of him being the one that gets pulled in, because he could not self-ult. It is going to be so much about Ray, though. We have to talk this guy up. Going back to EDG, he's the guy on the Urgot. His ult is so impactful for these team fights. It can be used to try and execute a member of the front line as well, keeping in mind Score's positioning as well as the AoE fear.
I mean, the big fight that EDG won earlier, the fight that 4 of their current 6 kills came from, it was Ray's fear that made it happen and set all of that up. EDG now grouped up as one large unit, thinking about this Drake, thinking about the entire area of control around it. Smeb looking to flex those muscles, walk forward a little bit here. Hook's gonna go out, here comes your fight. Mako with the initiation, lands the spite, immediately gonna be dropped down. Death goes into Featherstorm, keeping himself alive. He's gonna be getting away, but fear beyond death will bring him back. Ray goes on a rampage as Scout manages to grab himself one, getting himself out to the side. Both summoner spells expended as the rest of EDG is gonna be on the run. But it's 3 going the way of UCal, and KT have their fight.
UCal once again, daddy status just slams through the fight. Yes, they get so much damage onto Xayah, but the early Kindred ultimate into UCal having all of the soul fragments meant that he had deletion damage on the back end.
So difficult there for the squishy members to survive early on, and Ray did find the ultimate onto Depth even after the Kindred ultimate. Let's take a look at it from start to finish, though, because it was a death sentence from Mata that actually caused Rakan to go for this engage. There's the early ultimate from Score. Depth does get back onto it, but Ray doesn't care. He attaches the ultimate, so even after when the flash goes off, he can pull him back in. And that is the start of the DPS killing.
But it just feels like UCal is a fiddlesticks actually crow-storming in the middle of the fight because there's so much AoE control. Knows his range, just gets the flash, ult, and Q. That was the back end, and that's why KT actually stick the landing.
One of the benefits of playing Swain, sometimes your opponents will be deterred from going for the Swain, so you just get to sit in the middle, put out all of this AoE damage. He also kept his flash available the entire time, so he was able to finish off of iBoy. And KT Rolster now 2,000 gold ahead, plus evening up the Mountain Drake count.
And it just felt like a battle of the mid laners the first time these two teams met. That was resoundingly won, you'd have to say, by UCal. This one's been a lot more even in the early game, but those sort of team fights can really separate open when the game is there to be won.
And man, I gotta give so much credit to UCal. You already mentioned how he's only 17 years old. He's the new player coming into this roster of veteran names, of these known elements of Korean League of Legends, and he is just stepping up like a seasoned pro.
Let's talk about something that's ultra Korean League of Legends, jungle and mid lane duos. Dandy and Mata, of course, the most we're very famous for the jungle and spot, but jungle mid has always been there. Benki and Faker, for example. UCal is 17. His jungler, who we affectionately call Old Man Score, the oldest player here at 26. 9 years different. You must know that in Korean culture, it's all about following your elder. Sometimes UCal's play dictates what KT do.
Yeah, UCal himself is the youngest player. So KT Rolster have the full age range of every player here at Worlds. And it is showing up pretty big here because now they have such a good hold, they can actually reset completely. You've seen them got back to base. They're collecting their control wards to put back down and laying them out right down the river pretty much.
I also want to point out the Zhonya's Hourglass on Yukao. With that item fully completed, that means his ability to run into those fights and be that Crowstorm Fiddlesticks type of element is so very powerful. Active items can make such a difference in terms of how a team fight plays out. We'll see how much value he gets out of that one. Stopwatch is also available on both the Xin Zhao of Haro and the Scion of Smeb. So keep an eye on them to also be able to drop aggro in these upcoming fights. Baron is alive, and you're going to see KT try to maintain vision control over the area.
Intelligence of the draft from KT is that neither the Scion nor the Swain are really food for the Akali in the side lane. So it's been much more about team fights and Akali comp usually wants.
Akali?
Speaking of Akali,
She might be the food.
Akali trying to get herself away from this one. Scout's putting up one hell of a fight, though, but 1 versus 2 is not
That's
a fight
more.
anybody wants to take on. 1 versus 5 is even worse. Scout does a good job getting himself away, but EDG looks like they still want to go in and make something happen. Here goes Mako looking to find the knockup. There's your damage. Fear beyond death. We'll grind that Scion into pieces.
And even with Score's ultimate, Ray pulls him past the edge here. They find the kill onto the front line. Now is EDG's window. 30 seconds without the Scion for KT, and they head right in towards Baron.
for this
I
tournament,
love this.
it was a little bit too greedy from KT. There were too much see hero, kill hero style of approach there. Meant they were so out of position and no one could back up the Scion.
Because it is the top laner who does have teleport, you don't want to rush into anything off of that single kill. However, establishing vision around the Baron is an objective in itself. That is step number 1 and critical here for the setup. You can see now they can reset and get back out onto the field.
KT has had every Baron in every one of their games so far, which granted is 1 Baron per game because KT ends games very quickly and very effectively. They've also had first turret in every game they've played so far. It's part of this team's incredible objective control and general gameplay, but as we've gone through this game, every time I've looked up at the top of the screen and said, oh, I should probably check in on the gold now and see how big the lead is becoming, it seems like we've had some shifts back and forth. It's always 1,000 gold between these two. It's such a close game.
There's so many worlds where if you really pour over the stats, you get the full picture, but this is the year that all those stats, all those memes, all that history is being rewritten. We already had a Korean team crash out of groups not 2 days ago. There's a very realistic chance that EDG can keep up the tempo, can keep outplaying by the slimmest of margins in team fights and take down this game and get that confidence moving on to the later games.
Even with the LPL overall not having a good win record versus LCK historically, it does feel like this is the year for change. 5-17 historically, but EDG can write their own history now.
It's Worlds, baby. Anything can happen as Scout gonna find himself in a 1 versus 1 against Yukao yet again. Last time, those odds didn't stay very fair very long. Scout's trying to get himself away. Pops off the gunblade, looking to stay alive, but Dev says, no, sir. The hunter has become the hunted, and KT pick up 1 for free.
We drift
Look at
in.
Smeb in there. Deja vu, can he find somebody else? Decimating Smash won't decimate anything, but KT's on the way to Baron.
And this time around, they've killed off a solo laner that does not have teleport, so I do expect them to go for at least a little bit of a bait here. There is no vision for EDG.
Here's what we prepared earlier, says KT, so EDG got to go headstrong and face check. They know they're on it.
5-man strong from KT in the Baron pit. EDG looking to fight up against one. Mata's going to be taken down below half HP. EDG just trying to buy time. They don't want a 4 versus 5 fight. They just want to keep them away, and they'll succeed.
Extremely tactical stop right there from EDG. They're able to poke on the Baron, force KT to react without getting themselves caught. Very, very critical window. Scout is now alive and coming back out to the Dragon.
KT had everything set up for a Baron except a way to make the Xin Zhao predictable if he tried to come around the bat. They knew his flash was up. They had to respect that. That was almost a wombo combo of a pick into a perfect Baron setup, but that last variable stopped them finishing it.
And at that point, they had already used the Scion ultimate down mid, so the only way for them to pick someone off from EDG coming to stop that Baron was a death sentence from Mata, and that was avoided.
And A while ago, I commented on the state of the game and the status of the turrets and what had been taken. EDG trying to push up that minion wave to eliminate this remaining outer turret on the side of KT, but will fall just short. And KT now have themselves set up in a priority position over the Infernal Drake as EDG move back out onto the map into the mid lane. They'll move towards Baron now to set up some vision over that, but they definitely won't be able to attempt any sort of a sneak. While KT is occupied, they've already got that Infernal.
We'll get some vision cleared, but I've been noticing some fun style choices from UCAL early in this tournament. We're going for the Medjais very early. Spellbinder means a bit of turbo Swain action as EDG lie in wait for the potential flank.
EDG want to come in from the side and make this play happen. There they go, seeing if maybe they can find some sort of a knockout. My boy's already grabbing the kill on to score. KT's in trouble. UCal's going to go unstoppable, finding the kill on to Mako. Mata's going to be taken down next. KT's on the run. Smith trying to get himself out of this one. UCal going to go into the stasis. There's no way out. It's the play that's killed him twice before at Worlds. And EDG, they turn it right back around. It's Rakan coming out from the side brush. It's EDG with the team fight, and it's EDG onto the Baron.
And that is going to be it. EDG will easily be able to pick this one up. What a lightning quick flank from Mako and the rest of EDG.
This is the play that SKT did to them last year. This is the play that Infinity Esports did to them this year. They have learned from it. They have been molded by it, and they unleash it on KT.
That mid lane brush, continually the thorn in the KT roster side, but now they have to remain calm and reset on the field for defense because EDG are coming for him. Haro with the flash in opens up the window for Mako to CC score from 100% to 0. That Kindred never got a chance to ult.
And that's when a plan comes together. Great flank timing. KT didn't ask the question of, hey, where is everyone from EDG? They didn't ask it serious enough, and I love how decisive Haro was, because he was skipping past the front line and going straight to the back.
Let me remind you, this is the LPL 3rd seed, had to work their way through play-ins versus KT Rolster, the #1 seed from the LCK. Favored team here at Worlds, and they are pushing them to the brink.
But seeds mean something till you get to Worlds, but after that they mean less. Remember EDG, yes, they haven't been able to convert at Worlds, but they are finally converting some of the things that have made them so dominant on the domestic stage into a very, very comfortable performance here. Game's not over, but a 5,000 gold ain't nothing to sniff at for EDG.
EDG, no strangers to the World stage, been here 5 consecutive times. So many previously as a #1 seed, but it's something about underdogs this year at Worlds. And now they still have 1 minute and 45 seconds left on this Baron. They are already pushing up towards the inhibitor turrets.
And let's not forget what this push, what that play, what this game means for EDG. It is a ticket to the quarterfinals. Winning this game means Team Liquid will no longer be able to catch them, and they will be the second team moving on from this group. We'll see now if a fight breaks out here around this top side tier 2. Ray's gonna be the one who's not really too afraid of much of anything, keeping himself positioned in that upper brush. All 5 members of KT here on the defense, looking to see if maybe Mata can find something with a hook. Ray on the front line, not gonna try to go in for anything. EDG is happy to grab their objective and back out.
Baron buff, still for 1 more minute, but not gonna be too much more conversion, you'd imagine. Most of the easy objectives around the map are down. Now we're getting to the hard stuff, the nitty gritty of the inhibitor turrets and the inhibitors. EG will feel great about the scenario they come in. Can't help but look at UCAL and say there's still a team fight where KT could change the textbook.
There is a lot of gold on EDG's side, but you're right. There are a lot of stasis skills as well as delaying teamfight abilities for KT Rolster. As we mentioned, Sion still has a stopwatch of his own for Smeb on the front line. Plus, you can rely on the passive to get back up. Score trying to protect the back line with his own ultimate. Does not have a QSS still. Went for the Hex Streaker instead, which in this sort of scenario, I value so much the instant CC breaker to get your ultimate off and guarantee it rather than the small health shield of a Hex Streaker. Even though, yes, a Akali burst is very scary, we'll see if it does end up mattering again for KT as they try and defend their base.
And it's one of those wombo combos of no QSS plus the map being controlled by the enemy team from behind. Feels like the Kindred has a very high, just no contribution to team fight possibility. Mata takes the wrong hook, he dies instantly. Yes, there are other frontliners, but it feels like if EDG run at KT 10 times, they win way more than 5.
And especially now that they made 5,100 gold.
Oh boy!
From that Baron power play. I commented on how this game was so even. 1,000 gold, back and forth. Just back and forth, constantly on that teeter-totter of who's going to take the small lead, who's going to take it back. But now, it's EDG firmly in the lead, almost 7,000 gold up. KT are getting pretty familiar with the sights, sounds, and scenery of their inhibitor turrets because going anywhere past those is so dangerous right now. Infernal Drake spawning in 30 seconds, and EDG control the map.
You know it's a bad game when you need a control ward to take your Raptors or control ward to take your walls. You need a control ward per camp, and that's not helping with the gold lead that KT just are staring at from the side of EDG. Every minion wave they push through, even where we're seeing UCAL on the screen, has a bit of percentage risk to it, but they need that gold because right now there's some nice items on the side of EDG.
And EDG about to get themselves their own Infernal Drake here and even that count up as well.
This is just a donation for them, a supply drop. They get this one for free, no way to contest it if you're KT Rollster, so another 8% on top of what is already some very nice items, and now for KT, they hope that maybe a Baron repel is the only way they can stay in this game.
Exactly. EDG still collecting the rewards for that last team fight victory around mid lane.
Games of League of Legends can be won and lost in the Baron pit. EDG, 2 minutes before that Baron becomes live, a little bit under that now. They'll look to establish a lot of vision over the area, and remember, this is a team that has Urgot, Akali, and Kai'Sa. If KT cannot get out onto the map and contest it quickly, it will drop incredibly fast to the damage on this EDG squad. And then KT is just playing a harder version of the game that they've been playing already for the last 5 minutes.
And let me tell you, this game state for KT before the second round robin of Summer was just GG. Their ability to come from behind was something that was really dogging them. It's why they were pipped at the post so many times, trying to get to Worlds, trying to win the LCK before summer season. They found some poise. They've made some miraculous comebacks, but you can't help but look at EDG's side and say they are in full control of this game, and it will take a super play from one of the KT members to turn it around.
2018 at Worlds has certainly favored the teams with no fear. The teams willing to take the fight to their enemies regardless of standings. And talking about that team fight for Score, it hasn't gotten any better. He is still only 3 marks on this Kindred, 35 minutes into the game, still not access to the extra range.
And we talked so much about KT and how strong this team had been so far at Worlds and the incredible performance they had put on. And this situation they're in right now, at least on the world stage this year, is very unfamiliar territory. Throughout the first round robin, here's a stat for you. KT was in a major lead 66% of the time.
That's a lot.
A major deficit, 0.1%.
0.1%. So
We are the 0.1%.
it's seeming like that's true as they're on Baron this time fast.
EDG melting through it like butter, gonna take it down to about 1K. Who's gonna secure it? iBoys got it, and now KT are gonna be stuck in the fight. Mako looking to go in, find that quickness on to multiple members. Smith's gonna be taken down to half HP. EDG still haven't found the fight just yet. It's still gonna be a bloodbath as Lamb's Respite will keep the entire squad of KT alive. EDG still going in. They should be able to find a few. Depth's keeping himself alive. Ray's looking to take him down. Finds the shotgun into the blast. And the double kill reigns true. KT is ace. And EDG is heading for the base.
Complete domination from EDG. That is a clean ace 5-4-0 with Baron buff to push afterwards. That is gonna be it.
2018 is a year of upsets, a year of surprises, and a year where anything can happen. KT will not find their 6-0 perfect group. They will not find their victory, and EDG will punch that ticket to the quarterfinals.
KT Rolster gave them their best shot, but their best shot was found wanting. Deserved victory for EDG. Their fans applaud. They've shown something. KT will say, doesn't matter, we're already in the quarterfinals, but being on the back foot like this is never the way you want to go.
Both of the favorites coming to Worlds here. #1 seed from LPL and #1 seed from LCK, dropping games in group stage. And this is making 2018 look like it could be anyone's year.
And anyone can bleed is what we've learned. No one goes impervious, no one goes 6-0 unless Invictus Gaming tomorrow can pull it off. And that is an important thing because it means when we get to the quarterfinal stage, there's going to be plenty of seeds of doubt.
And I like the fact that you use the word seed there, Papa Smithy, because you already mentioned, once you get to Worlds, seeds don't mean as much. Let's not just say that the top 2 contenders for the title in a lot of people's minds have dropped games so far at Worlds. Let's make sure we put the extra detail on there. They've dropped games to teams that fought through the play-ins. Anyone